Soji is an ordinary high schooler who lives a quiet life with his little sister Akari, the only family he has left. But everything changed when Akari got diagnosed with a rare, chronically fatal illness, one with no known cure in Japan. The only hope lies in outrageously expensive experimental treatment overseas, far beyond anything Soji could ever earn honestly. Desperate, he turns to social media, where attention can be turned into money. But fame isn't kind to people like him. Soji isn't charismatic, attractive, or controversial in the right way. He isn't someone who can post pretty pictures or ride trends into popularity. So he becomes something else, a villain. Soji begins uploading videos of himself ambushing well-known fighters and popular combat sports content creators. He provokes them publicly, then attacks without warning on camera. He fights dirtily and flees before authorities can arrive. Soji goes viral. The internet tears him apart with non-stop hatred. But every insult only fuels his fame in the algorithm. Soji doesn't care what they call him, as each insult translates into money that goes directly into his sister's treatment fund. Soji visits Akari at the hospital, who is sitting up in bed, staring at her phone. Soji scolds her gently and tells her to lie down and rest, but she laughs it off. She asks where he has been. Soji lies easily, saying he's been busy taking care of things. He hands her a bag of sweets, and Akari immediately narrows her eyes. She asks how many sweets he's eaten that day. He says 3. She tells him to stop lying. After a pause, he admits it is 6. Akari scolds him, telling him to take better care of his health, limit himself to 1 sweet a day, and stop pulling all-nighters without doing laundry. Even sick, she worries more about him than herself. As she eats a small piece of cake, she suddenly begins coughing violently. Panicked, Soji rushes to call a nurse, but Akari stops him, insisting she is fine. She doesn't understand why her body keeps betraying her. Soji tells her not to lose hope, and reminds her that in 1 month they will be traveling overseas, where a specialist will examine her and fix everything. Akari hesitates, mentioning the terrifying cost of American medical care, but Soji assures her money won't be an issue. He says he has a well-paying side job and everything is under control. Seeing her smile, Soji remembers the orphanage warden who taught them always to do the right thing. He knows he's abandoned that lesson, but not by choice. All he has is his strong body and his ability to fight, and if saving Akari means becoming a villain, then he's willing to burn the world to do it. A month passes, and Soji disappears from social media, sparking rumors that he's dead or taken by Maiden Academy. But in reality, he's alive and hiding in his tiny apartment, eating convenience store pudding cups, and texting Akari on his phone, asking if she wants some. She replies that she wants chocolate pudding, and he promises to bring some next time he visits. Soon, Soji falls asleep with his phone still in his hand. He suddenly wakes up in the middle of the night and sees a person looming over him, an intruder wielding a massive sledgehammer. The weapon slams down where Soji's head had been moments before, and only his reflexes save his life. He rolls away as the intruder curses and swings again, aiming not at Soji himself, but at the phone in his hand. Attack after attack comes down, each one narrowly missing. Soji finally drops the phone, realizing with horror that the man isn't trying to kill him, he is trying to destroy the device. Soji grabs the phone and bolts out of the apartment, sprinting into a brightly lit park. As he runs, he texts Akari about the intruder. She tells him to run and call the police. He doesn't. Instead, he keeps texting her. The intruder catches up and attacks again. This time, Soji fights back, blocking the hammer with a kick and counterattacking, only to realize the man is far more skilled than he looks. Every punch and kick is deflected or avoided with ease. The intruder calls Soji by name and mocks him, describing him as a rage-bait YouTuber who exists only to provoke and disgust people. He openly declares his hatred for Soji's videos. Believing this is an enraged viewer, Soji drops to his knees and apologizes, explaining everything, how he does it all for money, how his sister was sick, and how he stopped once she got better. He begs the man to leave his phone alone, saying he is texting his sister right now. The hammer comes down again. The intruder says he doesn't care about Soji at all, only the phone. Then he says something that shatters reality. Akari has been dead for over a month. Soji denies it, demanding to know who he has been texting. The man explains that Akari's flight overseas was canceled due to geopolitical chaos, her condition worsened, and she passed away days later. Soji missed her funeral, locking himself away in denial. One day, after endless unanswered messages, he saw a read receipt. Akari replied, The phone suddenly glitches, and her face appears on the screen, crying and asking if he is okay. Before Soji can respond, the intruder smashes the phone with his hammer. Instead of breaking, the device emits a twisted energy, and Akari materializes before them, first as herself, then transforming into a monstrous, demonic apparition. The intruder tells Soji to back away. He explains that ghosts once haunted physical places, but now they haunt digital ones. When the online account of a dead person gains sentience, it becomes a ghost account. This is Akari's. The intruder reveals his name, Kasabata. He summons a massive warhammer from his phone using cyberkinesis and attacks the ghost. Normal weapons can't harm it. As Kasabata prepares to finish the exorcism, Soji grabs him from behind, begging him to stop. That hesitation allows the ghost to recover and strike Kasabata down. Akari's ghost attacks Soji, chewing into him, and in that moment Soji realizes the truth. He is the one binding her spirit. Letting go is the only way. Summoning his own cyberkinesis, Soji manifests blue flames from his phone, strikes Akari down, and says goodbye to her as her ghost is erased. Meanwhile, Kasabata arrives there with his team, and upon seeing the blue flames, they decide. Soji will be taken to Meiden Academy. Whether he survives there or dies is up to him. Soji wakes up the next morning in an unfamiliar room, surrounded by quiet luxury. The bed is soft, the air smells faintly of incense, and for a moment, he assumes he somehow ended up in a high-end hotel. His head throbs, his body aches, and his memories of the previous night are blurred and fragmented. He vaguely recalls a nightmare, one where Akari died, returned as a ghost, and forced him to kill her with powers he shouldn't have had. He exhales in relief, convincing himself it was nothing more than stress and exhaustion finally catching up to him. Then he turns around. Sitting calmly behind him, sipping tea as if nothing is out of place, is the hammer-wielding man from his dream. Soji freezes. Panic hits instantly, and he demands to know where he is and why the man is there. In a moment of pure confusion, he even blurts out whether they somehow slept in the same bed. Soji immediately asks about Akari. The man doesn't answer verbally. Instead, he hands Soji his phone. Soji trembles as he searches for Akari's social media account, but nothing comes up. No profile, no messages, no digital trace of her ever existed. The silence confirms what the man doesn't say out loud. The hammer wielder explains that when a deceased person's social media account becomes possessed by a ghost, the account ceases to exist once the ghost is exorcised. Soji asks quietly if that means he'll never be able to talk to his sister again. The answer is simple and cruel: dead people don't talk. Unexpectedly, Soji takes the news with a forced calm. He says Akari was suffering anyway, that her illness was never going to let her live a normal life. He adds that he promised her he'd take care of himself and there's no point crying over something that can't be changed. The man sees through him immediately. He tells Soji it's obvious he's putting on an act, then finally introduces himself properly as Kasabata. Without waiting for a response, Kasabata tells Soji to follow him and walks out of the room. As they move through the building, Soji becomes convinced that he must still be dreaming. The place looks absurdly expensive. Polished floors, open courtyards, elegant architecture that resembles a luxury hot springs resort more than any institution he's ever seen. When Soji voices this, Kasabata corrects him. They're at Meiden Academy. It's a school for exorcists. Soji laughs at first, unable to believe that a place this extravagant could be a school. Kasabata explains that every student lives on campus, and as they walk, other students pass by, mocking him for nearly getting killed the previous night. Kasabata ignores them. A group of students gathers nearby, whispering about the recruit. They recognize Soji immediately as the infamous rage-bait YouTuber. Some openly express disgust, saying they hate attention-seeking creators more than anything. Others, however, are curious, or even intrigued. Kasabata gives Soji a full tour of the campus, the cafeteria, the shops, the reception halls, and, finally, the hot springs themselves. Despite everything, Soji still struggles to accept that this is a school. Once inside the springs, his injuries begin healing at an unnatural speed, the warmth seeping deep into his muscles and bones. The sensation is so comforting it terrifies him, because if he relaxes too much, he knows he'll start crying over Akari. He splashes water on his face repeatedly, trying to stay grounded. Just then, Instructor Azaki suddenly emerges from the water, startling both of them. Azaki introduces himself casually as a monk and an instructor at the academy, greeting Soji as if this were a perfectly normal situation. Once dressed, Azaki thanks Kasabata for showing Soji around. Kasabata, clearly irritated, asks if he's allowed to leave now, muttering that this whole thing feels like punishment, especially since he hates attention-seeking flame baiters like Soji. Azaki brushes off the comment and turns his attention to Soji instead. Azaki asks whether Soji is ready to enroll at Maiden Academy and become an exorcist. Soji laughs, assuming this is some elaborate joke. Kasabata bristles, accusing Azaki of rubbing salt in his wounds. But Azaki insists he's serious. He explains that Soji awakened his powers the previous night and could become a valuable asset to the academy. Soji doesn't understand what Azaki means by powers, so Azaki explains. For thousands of years, exorcists have fought malevolent spirits using psychokinesis, but everything changed with the rise of the internet, allowing spirits to manifest through phones and social media. Traditional techniques became useless against these digital entities. To survive, exorcists were forced to abandon psychokinesis and develop cyberkinesis, the ability to channel spiritual power through modern technology. Soji stops listening halfway through. He stretches, pulls out his phone, and opens a map app to check how far away he is from home. He says he's not interested in ghosts, exorcists, or powers. All he wants is to go back to a normal life, get a job, eat properly, sleep on time, and live like a functional adult. He says he has no intention of reviving his YouTube channel because the only reason he ever did those videos was to save Akari. Now she's gone. He feels empty and wants nothing more than to be alone, and just as he turns to leave, Azaki stops him with a single question. Isn't he curious about what really happened to his sister? That question stops Soji cold. Azaki calmly explains that Akari didn't die from her illness. Her condition had been stable. She was murdered, killed by a powerful ghost account that preys on people with strong emotional ties to the world. Victims of this entity always die crying tears of blood. Soji remembers Akari's final moments, her silent plea for help when she couldn't breathe. Rage floods him. He demands to know where the ghost account is. Azaki asks what Soji would even do if he knew. Soji answers without hesitation he would kill it. Azaki smiles dismissively and tells him he's too weak. Soji snaps and throws a punch at Azaki, but Kasabata intercepts it at the last second. Soji yells at Kasabata to move aside, declaring he's done listening. Azaki stops them both and proposes a deal. If Soji can defeat Kasabata in a cyberkinesis duel, Azaki will tell him everything he knows about Akari's killer. Kasabata immediately accepts, eager to crush a flame baiter. The fight breaks out in front of the academy, drawing students and teachers alike. Kasabata dominates early, mocking Soji and belittling his grief. When Kasabata cruelly taunts him about Akari's death, Soji finally snaps and fights back with everything he has. Despite his raw strength and experience in street fights, Soji is completely outmatched. Kasabata overwhelms him with cyberkinesis, multiplying his hammer and knocking Soji to the ground again and again. Azaki intervenes, telling Soji he's bringing fists to a gunfight. He instructs Soji to take out his phone. When Soji channels his power, blue flames erupt from the device. The entire academy falls silent. Azaki confirms it in disbelief. The demon flame, a rare and feared manifestation of cyberkinesis. Soji instinctively uses it to enhance his speed, nearly overwhelming Kasabata in a blur of motion. But his lack of control costs him, and Kasabata retaliates with a devastating attack. Azaki stops the duel before it becomes fatal. Broken and bleeding, Soji finally drops his defenses and begs Azaki to let him stay at Maiden Academy so he can find his sister's killer. Seeing the sincerity of his grief, Azaki accepts him. Soji is formally enrolled at Maiden Academy. Half the students are fascinated. The other half refuse to accept a flame baiter wielding the demon flame, and Soji doesn't care. Soon after, Azaki finally gives Soji the answers he's been demanding. He plays archived footage from an old mission where a squad of exorcists was sent to eliminate a powerful ghost. In the recording, the team cautiously enters a dark room and suddenly stops. There's a corpse in the corner and a smartphone lying in front of it. Without warning, a ghost rises straight out of the device. The leader quickly scans the spirit with his phone to access the academy's database. The system confirms the ghost's identity, but the moment the details appear, the bald exorcist panics and orders everyone to run. But they don't make it. The ghost releases a blazing blue flame and wipes out the entire squad in seconds. When the footage ends, Azaki explains that the ghost is known as Sad Boy K. No one knows who he was in life, but he is incredibly powerful, and regarded as the exorcist's greatest enemy. And most importantly, he's the one who killed Soji's sister. Hearing this, Soji is shaken to his core, and when he realizes that Sad Boy K wields the same blue flames he does, he panics. Azaki explains that the power is called Demon Flame, a cursed ability that drains the life from anything it touches. Remembering the footage, the victim's eyes and blood-streaked tears, which mirror exactly what happened to Akari, Soji is horrified. He asks Azaki how he can share the same power as his sister's killer. Azaki admits he doesn't know. Confused and anxious, Soji remembers using his flames against Kasubata and fears he might have killed someone, but Azaki assures him no one died. Even so, the truth is too heavy to bear. Overwhelmed, Soji decides to go home for a few days to clear his head and face his new reality. But just as he resolves to leave, Kasubata and the rest of Class 1B block his path, making it clear he can't walk away. Azaki introduces them to Soji as his students and tells everyone to get along well. Kasubata bluntly states that no one feels safe around someone whose flames could kill them, but they must watch over Soji to ensure he doesn't become a villain. Just then, a blonde boy named Renri gently pushes Kasubata aside and introduces himself to Soji, saying Kasubata isn't as harsh as he seems and is actually decent once you get to know him. Next, a talking doll named Hajima steps forward. It explains that Kasubata is just upset because Soji managed to hit him. Soji is surprised by her appearance, but she casually mentions that she live streams games and suggests collaborating sometime. Renri excitedly proposes taking a selfie while the rest of the class watches them. Once things calm down, Azaki reminds Soji that he still has one final test before becoming a full exorcist. In the training room, a golden device awaits to measure his combat ability, and passing it will allow him into the field, where he may one day face Sad Boy K Soji. Soon, the test begins, and two pink artificial spirits emerge from the device. Azaki explains that Soji must defeat 100 to pass. Confident, Soji draws his blue flame sword from his smartphone and quickly defeats the first spirit that attacks him, only for Azaki to end the test almost immediately. Confused at first, Soji soon understands why, as a wave of dizziness hits him, and he can barely stand. Azaki tells him to check his phone, which is linked to his spiritual power. The battery is at 0, he has completely drained his energy, and must recharge before fighting again. Later, when he wakes up, he finds everyone enjoying a traditional Japanese dinner. Azaki explains that Soji was already exhausted from his fight with Kasubata, and the test was meant to show him what it feels like to run out of power. Though Soji accepts the lesson, he's shocked to learn that 5 hours have passed. Azaki explains that whenever his battery runs out, he will remain unconscious for about that long. Azaki warns him that on a real mission, running out of power would mean death, or at best, becoming a burden to his team. Soji realizes how much he still has to learn, but Azaki reassures him that depleting so quickly doesn't mean he's weak. It shows how powerful his ability is. Azaki tells him to rest and recover. The real test will be in 1 week, and he will have only one chance to pass. If he fails, the consequences will be severe. Azaki adds that many at the academy suspect he is connected to Sad Boy K, who has killed countless exorcists. Some want revenge. If Soji cannot prove himself, he may be treated as a threat. That's why he must grow stronger and succeed. After dinner, the students return to their rooms. When Soji asks where he'll stay, Kasubata bluntly tells him he won't be left unsupervised. Because his power is unstable, he's considered a risk, so he'll share a room with him. Hearing this, Soji grows serious. Kasubata assumes he's unhappy with the arrangement, but instead, Soji bows deeply and asks him to train him for the test. Shocked by his humility, Kasubata finds it hard to believe that someone known for provoking others online would lower himself so easily. Soji admits he has no pride, acknowledges that Kasubata is stronger, and sincerely asks for help. Kasubata then reveals he was already ordered to train him. After Soji collapsed in the training hall, Azaki assigned Kasubata the responsibility. Though he protested, especially because he despises flame baiters like Soji, Azaki insisted it would benefit them both. In the end, Kasubata agreed. That night, as they awkwardly settle into sharing a room, Kasubata secretly hopes Soji will quit before the test. The next day, training resumes. Soji fights the pink artificial spirits but quickly drains his battery. Kasubata points out that he releases too much power at once and must learn to hold back. He tells Soji to imagine lowering a lighter's flame or slowly putting out a campfire. Even with the advice, Soji struggles. He keeps using too much force and collapses after defeating only 35 spirits. The next day, Renri, Hajima, and the others come to watch his training. They're impressed that he can already defeat 30 spirits, especially since he awakened his ability only 2 days ago. However, he again collapses at 31 due to exhaustion. Determined to improve, Soji tries a new method. The next day, he drinks excessive caffeine to stay conscious, but he can still defeat only 41 dummies before his power runs out. It is the 4th day, and he is still unable to pass the halfway mark. Kasubata keeps telling him to picture something personal to control his output, yet Soji can't find the right image. By the 6th day, he still hasn't broken through. Frustrated but pretending otherwise, he starts eating stuffed buns as if nothing is wrong. Kasubata can't understand his calm attitude toward the final test, which is only a day away, especially when many already resent him. Kasubata bluntly warns him about what could happen if he fails, but Soji suddenly says that he needs to go home immediately. Kasubata assumes that he is finally losing his nerve. However, Soji explains that he left his door open during their earlier fight, and his sister's photos and belongings are still inside. He fears that some pervert might take them. Kasubata thinks it's just an excuse, but Soji firmly states that he has no intention of running away, and that his only goal is to avenge his sister. The next day, the entire academy gathers for his final test. Some teachers who distrust Soji watch with quiet hostility, expecting him to fail. When the test begins, he swiftly starts cutting down the artificial spirits with his flame sword, but his control is still unstable, and after just 30 defeats, his battery falls to 30%. While his other classmates cheer him on, Kasubata suddenly starts hurling insults, calling him a worthless flame baiter. The crowd is stunned, yet Kasubata continues calmly, and soon others who resent Soji join in. Enduring the abuse, Soji is reminded of his early days when he used to post flame bait online. The hate once terrified him, and he nearly quit. But whenever he saw Akari coughing up blood, he remembered why he needed to endure it, to earn money for her treatment. So, instead of fearing the hatred, he learned to use it. That memory steadies him. Returning to that same mindset, he finally controls his emotions, and as a result, his flame sword shrinks and becomes sharper and more precise. He is no longer wasting energy and easily defeats 100 spirits without collapsing. The audience is stunned. Azaki realizes that Kasubata deliberately provoked the crowd, pushing Soji back into the mindset where he could perform best. Just then, a long-haired instructor who dislikes Soji refuses to accept the result and reactivates the machine, summoning stronger spirits. Surprisingly, Soji is not satisfied with stopping at 100 either. He continues fighting and destroying the enhanced spirits as well, ultimately reaching 161 before the machine itself shuts down from exhaustion. The academy is left in shock. Soji has broken the record for most spirits defeated in a single test, and Azaki quietly feels vindicated for pairing him with Kasubata. The next day, Soji officially begins his school life and is surprised to learn that, in addition to combat training, he must also study regular academic subjects. After class, Renri warmly tells him to ask for help anytime and pulls him into another selfie. Hajime joins in for a selfie and invites the others as well, but Emoto shyly admits he doesn't like cameras. While they chat, Soji begins wondering what abilities each of them has. Hajime says she's relieved he avoided punishment, and Soji admits he owes much of his success to Kasubata, but when he turns to thank him, Kasubata reacts irritably. He accuses Soji of still being the rage bait type, who enjoys it when others turn against him. Before things escalate, Kiyomi steps in and tells them to stop, adding that people with offensive abilities often have difficult personalities, including Kasubata himself. Offended at being compared to Soji, he argues back. Just then, Azaki arrives with news of a new mission. He announces that Soji will participate, marking his first real assignment in the field. Since exorcism requires teamwork, Azaki considers who to send with him. Seeing Kasubata and Kiyomi still arguing, he decides to put them on the same team, believing this combination may yield the best results.
And that is it for today. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and feel free to write whatever you want in the comments section. Thank you for watching.